in Bitcoin terms, if you're measuring in Bitcoin, and I'll caveat this, as long as it stays decentralized and secure, which I'm pretty confident it will. And when I say pretty confident, I'm very, very confident it will. But as long as it stays decentralized and secure, then that means all prices forever will fall against Bitcoin. And people only think it's going up because it's 21 million pet cap. People only think it's going up because the denominator changing in the existing paradigm that they're measuring it from. Again, what it shows you is a belief system, and they're measuring in US dollars, or they're measuring in Turkish lira, or they're measuring in Lebanese currency, instead of measuring from the system without manipulation.
Right. And that's a really tough concept to get. Like if you're going away overseas and you're bringing some of your money, quite often the first part of the trip is converting everything back to your local home currency, and it messes with your mind, and it ends up potentially ruining your holiday until you finally just let go and realize, right, everything is denominated in a different currency. So that's kind of, I guess you could push that out to describe what you're talking about here with Bitcoin, right? Like when you start to measure everything through Bitcoin, and you look at the value of your home, the value of goods and services, everything, then it's deflationary. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. 5 years ago, it would have cost me over 100 Bitcoin to buy a house. Today, it costs me 10.
Right.
In a couple of years, it'll cost me 5 or 1. And that'll keep happening because most of the housing value, when people think about a house, it has changed from being a utility to being a store of value. So it's trying to store the wealth because paper money or digital money isn't storing that wealth very well. So people are putting it somewhere else that they think it'll store it better. Yeah. But that store of value that they're choosing because there wasn't Bitcoin before is inferior to Bitcoin because it relies on, as you continue to do this, as governments manipulate money, that housing will be taken back from you through taxes or through force, and so depending which country you're in, and it's left stuck to the jurisdiction. You can't move it. Whereas Bitcoin, you can move anywhere. And so what that'll do is over time, prices will fall to the marginal cost of production. P.S. There's also been technology in housing and all the products that are in housing. They're in labor and machines that build housing. So you ask yourself, why is housing up so much? And again, you come back to the same thing. It's only up so much because the dollars are down so much. That's why. And then, so if you're a renter in that house, and why I say inflation is wage deflation, then their wages are going down in real time to be able to pay for somebody else's rent seeking on that. And it will not last. It just mathematically, it will not last. And in Bitcoin, what's happening is it's repricing the entire system, and that monetary premium in time is going to be gone. And in time, houses will also fall to the marginal cost of production in Bitcoin terms.
Yeah, right. It's such a mental leap to get there. You're already there, but I think for potentially a lot of people watching or listening, it might be hard because they're still looking at, say, Bitcoin as something that is denominated in US dollars, and they're looking at Bitcoin as a very volatile and therefore untrustworthy asset. Whereas what you're saying is it's actually inverted.
It's the safest asset, safest asset on the planet today. And I've done a lot of work on this, and I understand people's reservation if they're coming at it through the mainstream narrative and they haven't done the work to understand what that looks like. And I completely understand, because I was once there too. And there's a lot of times people kind of find what I'm talking about or find what other people understand in Bitcoin, and they've moved over, and it looks like a cult. It looks like, but what I would say is most of those people that have done this have spent thousands of hours essentially trying to disprove a hypothesis. From my book, and from the things I've said, if you go back to all of the podcasts that I've done before, they keep on predicting, the predictions are right. Over and over and over, the predictions are right. In other words, my measurement is right of the greater economy. My measurement is being validated, If your predictions are wrong over and over and things are surprising you, and oh my God, this happened. Oh my God, this happened. If it feels like that, you're probably measuring from the wrong system.
Sure.
You're probably reinforcing the system that is being manipulated. If it feels like you're surprised at events that are unfolding around the world today, then you're probably in the wrong system.
Wow. Slightly controversial war. When you think about just how currency needs to be created potentially at an exponential rate just to keep this whole thing going, am I correct in assuming that war could play an integral role in justifying the creation of new currency units like this?
Absolutely. But if you just think about the current, so the world needs a neutral reserve currency, or not a neutral currency that can't be manipulated by one country. And there's kind of pros and cons if you have the world reserve currency that is under manipulation. The pro is everybody has to deal in your currency, the U.S. dollar. And so what that means is if Russia wants to sell their oil, and you change your currency units by 8.5% per year, which is the average over the last 100 years by the U.S. The average over the last 100 years, 8.5% per year. That means that Russia is selling their oil, their hard assets, in something that's being devalued 8.5% per year. And then if you're using that value to create a military industrial complex to police the world, then that's not really a free market. Two things could be true at the same time. Putin could be a terrible dictator, and we wouldn't want that to evolve around the world, and he could be right on this. It's just the way that the world works today. And what that means is there's a whole bunch of dystopia. There's a whole bunch of countries that are living under dictatorships that the currency that New Zealand, Canada, US, our benefit is from stealing their labor. That has to, cobalt wouldn't work unless we paid people in Africa $2 a day to mine it. And so if we had to pay the actual price of a neutral reserve currency where they could get rich as well, our economies might not look like they do. So again, that whole system is based on theft. Some people win and some people lose based on somebody gets to control the monetary system. And Bitcoin changes that paradigm completely by making everyone equal in it. It's just if you ask this, maybe for people that don't know Bitcoin as well, is why in the world would there be so much consternation about an honest open ledger? Because that's all it is. It's just an honest ledger. It's something where nobody controls it. Everyone benefits from it, and you can't change the ledger. It's just an honest ledger. Whereas we live in something that has theft in the ledger.
Yeah.
So if you lived in something that has a dishonest ledger or theft, and where some people can control it to the exclusion of some people, who would win? Who would lose? What would the world look like? And then what would they have you believe to keep control of the dishonest ledger? So when you see kind of the exploits and the chaos happening in the world, it's really clear why. It would just be a mere reflection of that dishonest ledger having to expand at an ever increasing rate to stop the technology abundance from flowing to us.
Yes.
And so Bitcoin changes that, and it changes it over time. And in every single person's view in the world, because it's open, has a choice. Every day they could either learn what I'm saying, and the minute they start pricing Bitcoin or start saving in Bitcoin, effectively what they're saying is, I'm not going to pay for $400 trillion of insolvent debt anymore. I'm not going to play the game that's creating the chaos anymore. I'm going to put my savings into something that feeds productivity and honest ledger and all of the benefits to humanity, something that brings truth, hope, and abundance to humanity.
Yeah, I see what you mean though. Like it does, I'm just, because I've been, I guess, orange pilled for a few years now. So for me, it feels quite natural, but I can see how it can sound a little bit like a cult from the outside, perhaps looking in. But the good news is that it's not too late. Like you say in your book, that in times of great change, the beginner's mind has the advantage. So in this current climate, I guess, if you're a beginner in understanding Bitcoin, even right now, it actually, based on what you've just said, it means absolutely nothing. The fact that the price is what it is, and it used to be a lot cheaper, that doesn't matter, right?
So really important how early we are. If the world's wealth today is 900 trillion, that means no matter what you denominate the denominator in, if you keep changing that, right, and the wealth goes bigger, but it's fake wealth, it's paper wealth.
That's right.
Right. Then your ability to live in that system is based on this denominator changing. But if you just took today and said today it's about 900 trillion, of which 400 trillion is insolvent debt, that entire system, I believe, is going to be repriced into Bitcoin in time, as long as Bitcoin stays decentralized and secure. And you could do the work that I have to be able to essentially assign probabilities to that staying true. And my probabilities, I used to have kind of a 5% probability that something could break it. Now my probability is probably under 0.1%. And something could break it. So if that stays true, then it's going to reprice everything. And probably a simple thing, I did this on Peter McCormack's show, and some people, it helped them understand what was happening. If you had 8 billion monetary units in the world and 8 billion people in the world, and Darcy, you had 2 monetary units and I had 1 monetary unit and somebody else had 0.5 monetary units. If all of a sudden there was this magic person who could, now there's 16 billion monetary units, and if you didn't have 4 and I didn't have 2, our pockets were picked, but you could have 3 and you would think you were doing well.
I see.
Right. And because you can't measure how fast the monetary units are expanding, and it's in the trillions, and our brains just break. Actually, I'd have people after this podcast just go and look on Google and say a visual representation of a million versus a billion versus a trillion. Just type that in, and your brain will break what $1 trillion it actually is, and then realize the monetary system is being manipulated at such a staggering rate that we can't comprehend what it does to us.
Because we're too inside of it, right?
We're too inside it. We're measuring it from that same system that's doing the manipulation.
Yes.
And all money is information.
Yeah.
You actually don't want more money. You want more of what you believe money will buy you. Yeah. So it's just a ledger explaining what you have and what you think you need to produce what you want. And so some people, their view of, I need X amount of money because then I can retire safely. I need X amount of money because then I can leave my kids something. I need X so I can do a travel every year. It's always describing the thing you want. It's not the money. If it was the money, then an Argentine bolivar would be equal to a US dollar. It's just a piece of paper with faces and numbers on it. So it's just information describing what you really want. Meaning, if you manipulate that information at an ungodly rate that human beings can't even understand how much manipulation is in the information, and it's tying everything else, then that must mean we are looking through that misinformation. Everybody is.